Welcome to episode 20 of our series on the surnames of Appalachia and the American South. As you know, there are thousands of surnames in these regions, so to make our task more manageable, we're focusing on pre-Civil War surnames. That's because the Industrial Revolution ushered in thousands and thousands more. Each of the family names we'll examine today was requested by members of our YouTube community. You might note that I discuss surnames in the order that I received them, and I really appreciate the opportunity to serve as a resource for you. I also appreciate the patience that you have as I make my way through hundreds of names still on our list. In case you missed the previous video, I'll post a link to it in the description. So, today on The Vantage Point, we'll be talking about the origins and meanings of 9 common and not so common Appalachian and Southern surnames. I hope you'll join me. Let's get started. Number 1, Collins. Collins is one of the most requested surnames for me to cover here on The Vantage Point. My paternal great-grandmother was Donny Caledonia Collins, so obviously I have a personal interest in this surname. It's not too difficult to think of some famous English or Irish folk named Collins. In this case, I'm thinking of the singer Phil Collins and the actress Joan Collins. Both are from England. Michael Collins was an Irish leader in the Irish independence movement back in the early 20th century. Liam Neeson and Julia Roberts made a great movie about Michael Collins. Well, you may not think it's great if you're from England, but Going back further in time, the surname arrived in the Isles from France along with the Normans in the 11th century. It means Collins' son. In addition to Ireland and England, Collins is currently the 49th most common surname in Wales, and it has a small presence in Scotland. In Ireland, though, a large portion of the Collins folk anglicized their Irish surname. In Scotland, the name is often presented as Collinson. If your Appalachian Collins line is like mine, there's a good chance that your name came from Ireland. A significant portion of Collins and Ulster are of English descent. Because of that, I'm inclined to ethnically label Collins an Anglo-Irish, English, or Irish surname, depending upon where your ancestors originated. Number 2, Brock. When I was born, we lived in a house with no running water, but we did have a well and a hand pump on the back porch. And to keep the would-be party going, we had a 2-seater outhouse. Hey, how about pass me the toilet paper? With lots of young'uns coming around and coming and going, that was pretty handy. Brock's store was the only store in the community, so when I received this request, my mind opened up some good memories of Brock's store and the Brock's families that lived near us. Brock can be of English or Irish origin. In either case, it's derived from BROC, which was an old Irish and English word for badger. Brock is not found among the more common surnames in Wales, but it has a presence in Scotland. There were tenant farmers or tenant records of Brock families that date back to 1504, and after 1609 they were quite common in the Edinburgh area. I suspect that the ascension of James VI to the English throne as James I in 1603 had something to do with attracting Brock families from England into the Scottish capital. I think a paper trail and perhaps a Y chromosome test would be needed to locate the specific origin of your line of Brock. Number 3, Snyder. This is an anglicized version of the German Schneider. It also has Dutch and Old Norse equivalents as well. It's an occupational name for a cutter or tailor. It's not found among the common surnames in Ireland, Scotland, or Wales. In Appalachia and the South, it could be an anglicized version of one of the northern Germanic names, or it could have come straight from England. Number 4, Gregory or Greg. The surname Gregory is derived from the Latin Gregorius. It can also come from the Greek personal name. Greg is a shortened form of Gregory. According to Harrison, it means to be watchful. It's found in Germany and across the Isles, although it doesn't appear among the more common Welsh surnames. McLysick calls Gregory an Anglo-Irish surname. I could have supported that identification until I investigated Scotland and Ulster. It's been in the Bonnie country since at least 1150. In Ulster, Greg appears as an alternate form of Greer, which we covered in an earlier episode. I think you need a paper trail to locate the origin of your specific line of Gregory. Number 5, Cravens. I had the great pleasure of getting to know some Cravens who lived in Grenada, Mississippi back in the 1990s. Mr. Craven was an elder in a local Presbyterian church. I should point out that Craven is a different surname than the Celtic Crave. so I'm only making statements here today about that pertain to Craven. It originated as a toponymic in Yorkshire, England. It doesn't appear among the common names in Wales. In Ireland and Scotland, the English toponymic is likewise rare, but Craven is present as a form of this Irish Gaelic name in County Galway, and this Irish name in Louth and Monaghan. I'm classifying Craven as an English or Irish surname. Number 6, Whitehead. Technically, Whitehead is an English name that was first given to someone who had fair-colored hair. Those folks were probably Cottontops when they were little kids, and I can relate to that since I was a Cottontop. And I fear that my hair will be becoming white pretty soon. Where's my Just for Men? Whitehead's been in Scotland since at least the 1100s. It's not common in Wales, and in Ireland it's often found as an alternate form of this Gaelic name. I think we're safe in calling Whitehead an English, Scottish, or Irish surname. Number 8, Hancock. Hancock is on prominent display among the famous surnames of the founders of the United States. John Hancock was so proud of his new country that he made it impossible, or virtually impossible, not to see his signature on the Declaration of Independence. One could be guilty of assuming that Hancock had a prominent place in the society of old jolly England. That's not really the case with this surname. It's only common in England, where it was a pet form of the German personal name Johann or Hans. One online source says that it was applied to a young man who strutted like a cock. In the South, I think we're safe in calling Hancock an English surname. Number 9, Kirkland. In just looking at the syllables in Kirkland, I would think that this is a Scottish surname for one who lived on church land. One might recall that the Church of Scotland is often called the Kirk. Harrison says that the name does indeed refer to church land, but its history goes beyond Scotland. It originated with the Scandinavians who visited Scotland in Viking longships. The Vikings didn't just visit Scotland and its isles. They settled heavily in the Hebrides, Orkneys, and Shetland. The very existence of Scotland as a political unit is due in large measure to alliances formed by Kenneth MacAlpin in the 9th century to defend against Viking raids. Nonetheless, Kirkland took root as a surname in Scotland. It's not common in Ireland or Wales. Just as we saw with Orr, there are plenty of Scottish surnames that lack the MAC prefix. I am beyond confident that our form of Kirkland originated among the Scots. Well, neighbors, that's all I have for you today. I hope you got something meaningful out of our discussion. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. I invite you to check out all the videos on the Vantage Point. In addition to Surnames of Appalachia in the South, my videos cover a wide range of topics. I even have one in which I analyze JFK's final undelivered speech at the Trademark in Dallas on November 22, 1963. You might get a kick out of my feeble attempt to imitate him. If demand warrants it, I'll be back soon with another episode on the Surnames of Appalachia and the American South. I hope to see you then. God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.